Just about to do a run on the dog and just do it. I'm going to do an R1 just because it makes the video quicker and I can talk easily, but the same principles work right through to 1 to 8 and even on a Jokul. And you can look in the channel if I remember to pin it. I just did a bunny a couple of days ago, normal R8 and a Jokul using the same principles, same weapons that I'll be using on this, and using spores, the Gemini, which is the best Gemini inscription in the game. It got changed. A lot of the videos that I've watched earlier days when I was trying to get my first R8 kills on each hero, and that was before I was recording, were just out of date because spores, you know, the things I were talking about for inscriptions, spores is a lot better than those. And I have tried them all. I've tried the, mixing elements, the crit X builds for different, for the tiger, and this is just really, I think, much more successful if you're trying to get your first R8 kill. So it's a really tips for anyone doing reincarnation runs and what to choose along the way, because what you're looking for on weapons and what weapons work best with spores. And for spores to work, you need a very fast firing main weapon, and the weapon you don't use actually does the heavy lifting. It's the Argus or the Wild Hunt, the shotguns, and the reason for that is they've got the highest projectile count and they've got the highest base damage, and I'll explain that along the way. Now, I always have open in another window, whatever I'm doing the run on, I have a build that I'm going for and so forth, which I've forgotten to pull open, but here it is, and I'll show you that. I'll just pin that, and I won't go into it, but we will change some of it up because the starting choices and that have changed, simply because weapon damage scales well, but skills don't generally scale well in the harder content, especially in the last 2 acts and the last act, especially Act 4. So I have this build, and I think slight RNGs. This was a year old, but it's still really accurate for the dog. It's been around for a while. Just understanding the different builds you can try, and I've tried all of those builds before I understood spores and how that worked, but they still do give you a great understanding of the OP choices for survivability and so forth. So we'll look at that along the way. I'll pin that in the comments, and it is important you understand the defensive talents that are in that page, and we'll be having a look at that. So I've deployed the character just to show you that how I worked this out was there was no accurate information on spiritual assaults. Because it came out in November 2022, and that's quite a late period after the game, no helpful information was on the web. I found one comment on a Reddit page that was, and so I had to work it out myself. Once I worked out spores was OP, I did this container pretty much the same on all heroes, but there is a playlist on how to beat spiritual assault every time and easily on all heroes. And what this does is you don't have the money early on to roll spores onto a weapon. Like in 1 minute of the game, I can get spores on the first Craftsman in this build. It's on a timer. It works that every 10 minutes, the elite spawning, Craftsman spawn at certain spots on a timer. It's got nothing to do with how many enemies you kill in those timers. Of course, you get more levels and all the rest of it, ascensions and so forth. But yeah. So that lets you roll when you've got 100 gold. If it takes you 12 times, which is 3 12s or 3,600 gold you'd need to get spores on the weapon, gold becomes no issue. The only downside is you can only have 20 scrolls. That's all right. And this one just means, and that twigged for me, that it's not the inscription count on the weapons that makes spores able to be etched per se, but if you've got a gun with 1 inscription on it and it's level 5, then you can etch it in Act 1 of Reincarnation Runs. So I've just got to get weapons that drop at level 2 and then etch them at the Craftsman. There's always 2, and you'll have spores before the first boss. Now you can, in Spiritual Assault and why it's so OP, force the shotguns to drop every 50 enemies, and you're just one-shotting them because you've got spores. You run around for 1 minute, wait for the Craftsman to appear in the peddler, and that peddler will have Gemini inscriptions on it, whether you've killed 1 enemy or none. But you want to actually delay the kills so that you can get 50 enemies quickly pew-pewed, and then you get your shotgun and injectors drop, so you can force them to drop. Rate of fire is crucial within Reincarnation Runs, and that's the stat we're looking for in our weapons. But you can have a look at that video anyway, there's a whole playlist on it. That's the logic of it we're going to apply to this run. So we're going to go back here, do a new adventure. Now, Lone Wolf actually makes the run tougher, like you're doing a 2-player co-op. So enemies sort of, I don't know the actual multipliers, but like twice as much health, twice as much damage. So you're a bit of a glass cannon, but choosing overconsumption just makes everything easy for the first half. And then when you get spores, which you'll get by the first boss, it makes the last acts easy. And then you're going to get some scrolls for DPS, you're going to get some defensive scrolls, you're going to get some ascensions for defense. And skills do not scale well in the latter part. They'll do alright at the start, but the latter part of the run. So it's not skill-based RNG, that's removed. So we'll go in here, I'm just going to do level 1, but you can have a look at the bunny I did just last week on an R8 and then an R8 Jokul. Now the big difference between R7 and 8 is you'll get a challenge in nearly every room. That's what makes it tough. And hard mode, which is R8 Jokul, you get a challenge in every room, and the last act is just crazy sometimes. And the last room before the last boss is always innumerable elites, and they are tough as. So you want every edge you can get to beat it. Anyway, that's up there just to prove the principles I'm using here, the choices I'm using is across all heroes now. I used to mix it up watching other videos and found that maybe you're successful, maybe you weren't, based on what ascensions you got. But this just takes, well, you're more successful consistently on the harder stuff. So we're looking for Craftsman's Inheritor, like same thing, same exactly that we use for the Spiritual Assault loadout. Now, I haven't got it, just to show you, it doesn't worry because I've got plenty of essence to burn, but if you haven't got a lot of essence, quit. And you are not charged for the essence, it'll be 0 here. Still got 25,000 until you go through the door. So do 2 or 3 rolls, come back in. Even you can do that in co-op. I do that with my son, he's in his 20s. He doesn't have the disposable time or the essence cap. You do have to have this filled out, by the way, down to there to be able to etch before the first boss or even in the second act. You can't do it until the third act otherwise, which is a little bit late, and things have got pretty hard by that on higher content. So do some spiritual assaults, watch that video on how just to farm essence really quickly, 30-40 minutes, and you'll get like 600 essence out of that run. And we got it first time that time. So that takes money out of the equation. We no longer need money, just a little bit to be able to, we got an Argus, but it is a little bit early. We need it to be level 2, and there's only 2 Craftsmen, but that's a good starting weapon in a way. It's a good defensive weapon. It interrupts and pushes back anything that you shoot, and we've got 300% weapon damage, so just doing the corners to get some Qs. Some grenade, our grenades will just like one-shot everything. So even if you've got a crappy weapon at the start, it doesn't matter. The Foundry will one-shot everything on even 8s, it would do the same. Just getting some ammo, which I'm treating this as an 8 run, even though it's an R1, just to show you what I normally would do. I'd be getting my grenades and ammo up, which you don't start with any. And shoot badly. The good thing about this weapon is it does a big line, that's why its projectile count is high. And why it's the best weapon, it actually goes up from 13 to 16.25 when you pick it up. And the base damage actually scales really well. So it's this number hits hard for the spores, and there's interaction. So we just need a fast firing weapon to place the spore, which stack to 30 and then explode on the enemy, to place them as fast as we can. And that's why rate of fire is the top inscription that we're looking for on our weapons. So the angelic aura, and normally I'd go through and get my goblet and come back. But the first 2, even on 8, the first 2 rooms are not difficult, but the third room can have the elite and be pretty tough on an R8. So for the purpose of the video, I won't do all the side rooms. I'm just trying to give you the idea of how to get spores early. So, not too bad, capacity overdraft. It doesn't do a lot of damage if you run out of Qs. It just stops you chasing around the room. It does like 10% of your shield or something. Now we're mainly using for us, our main defensive ones are when we're dual wielding. Just let me get there. Got my shield taken off. We're a bit of a glass cannon. I ran over fire talking. So let me get my shield back. But we get our health back by going to dual wield mode and ascensions that increase that health per second. So we're mainly using dual wield to get our health back when we get hit hard like that. Not in the traditional mode that you'd look at other builds. So we'll have a look at builds in a second. But that's a great one, and you can see there that I will always choose, you know, these sort of things early. When your HP is decreased, 25% immune to normal damage for 2 seconds. It just, anything that does damage reduction, but this is the one I want, plus 20 HP during dual wield, and max HP bonus is doubled. So the regen is just, we want anything defensive, so let's have a look. And we, you know, we're not really using our dual wield in the traditional sense here because we really want to have the fast weapon. It's not the Argus or the shotgun that's doing the main damage, but we can shoot both, of course. So that will extend, and that'll be the traditional one you'd do. But recover 2, that's right. I'm just trying to look for it here. So that's the one there, golden comeback. It's one of our recovery ones. This main tree is our main one. We're not really doing a grenade build or atomic bomb build, but you'd choose these ones. We're looking for weapon damage, rate of fire. So that's weapon damage there. We'd choose this as priority ones for survival first. And then anything that gives us weapon damage, we'll make our choices along the way based on the slight RNG's pinned comment that I've got below the video. So let's see how we go. Once we get spores, whether it's an R8 or an R1 or in between, everything will be one shot in the first few acts, and the bosses won't last for more than a few seconds. This is a good weapon because it interrupts the range guys. Even the melee, if they come on to you, they just push them back and start, like, staggers them for a second. And that's the good thing about the Argus. Okay, it's level 1, so it's not going to help us get spores early on, but I'm going to pick it up just temporary. The second vault's easy. It's the third one that can get a bit brutal, and we might or might not do it for the purposes of the video. And on an 8, if it's the guy that's like the spinning guy and I haven't got spores yet, and you got ads everywhere, it's really quite narrow, that one. If there's a balcony up here, get under the balcony. Just using grenades because it'll go through the shields now. Shoddy won't. There's not much room to circle straight to these guys. Whoa. Just going in for health regen there, which we haven't got our ascensions yet, but habits. Got our shield back. There's nothing else to kill, but there is fire to kill us, so I'm not going to risk it. So we just want to get those ascensions as early as possible, and some scrolls, of course, like feline, cat is the best in the game. Stone skin minus, oh, that's good to get early. Now we can interact with chests that want to give us good things, but give us a cursed scroll. Never take that cursed scroll unless you've got that. What is it? Evil Banishing Talisman, I think it's called. Yeah. So it's just RNG. Sometimes you get a run that doesn't want to give you any cursed scrolls, and others it seems like every second red chat chest you can't use. There's fire everywhere here. Okay, well, we got sometimes there's a chat chest down here or a peddler hidden. I'm just always having a look. Some ammo and some secondaries. I wouldn't do it on a 1, I'm just trying to show you what I would do on an 8. There's a peddler up ahead, and because money's not an issue, I just buy it on the first peddler. But we do want to get our shoddy ideally before the first Craftsman room. Even a temporary one, if that's level 2. Watching the fire there. I do like that, you know, there's 8 heroes and I had to learn to play them all, and then trying to get that first 8 kills. Some heroes have actually got better defenses than others and different advantages. This is pretty OP, one of the S-class heroes. That's a nice weapon. It's still level 1, unfortunately. But it's good to burn through the shields in here, which there are a lot of crossbowmen and things. With the blue shield above the head. So that's lucky shot chance, and I would take that later. I'm not really worried about the duration. It's more that I want to get a bit of a hit, because that does interfere with me right-clicking on the rainbow a little bit. But after killing an enemy, destroying minus 20% damage, and we're going to be one-shotting, and it's going to give us, just by using and killing quickly, health per second, so we get our health back, and we're one-shotting everything, and they're not doing as much damage. And by number 3, we've got 40% reduction, and plus 2% health per second for 20 seconds. It makes a big difference, especially if you get some scrolls to increase that. Full on Qs, I know, yep. On my grenades. Don't rush in this room, you've got beetles and guys with heads that explode. Really bad place to have that. Just baiting them, and then I'm going to blow that up. I'm actually going to use this because there's too much fire, not much room, and it nukes. But this is a good weapon, the one I just got, because its rate of fire is over 1,000, and it's a good spore main weapon, just to show you. Now that's got a shoddy, so I've got to make a choice here. That's too low. That's a temporary shoddy. Even though it's got a high projectile count, the base damage is lower than the other. Really good scroll, by the way. You're going to get 50% there. Lucky shot. So we've got our spore weapon, because it's level 2, so the first Craftsman, we can bump that up to level 5, and then etch Gemini, and then re-roll spores, because it's all free to do all that. So we're looking for an Argus or a Wild Hunt. Not bad for one pointer, especially while we're reloading earlier, but we might drop it later on when we get some scrolls that stop us. Let me just get around here and kill this. This is our Craftsman, isn't it? So we can bump. It's a shame we haven't got our main weapon yet. I might. Is there a peddler in the next room? Peddler. There, I can see a Craftsman there. Oops, better pay attention here. Those exploding head guys can kill you. No, there isn't a head. Just clear this out and come back. If I go through, I might get locked in there, so let me just bump this up. So we'll just do this temporary. It's a shame because we're not going to keep it for the run. High projectile count. Anything will do though at this point. So we've got our off weapon that will burn this in the first act until we get an Argus or a Wild Hunt, which might happen on the next peddler ahead, but we have to keep this now. We're committed. There's only 2 Craftsmen. We etch it, we can get Gemini once it's 5 in the first act, regardless of how many inscriptions. They do nothing, by the way. Only when dual wielding, of course, but that's not how the spores works best anyway. So we'll re-roll that 1, 2. That was pretty good, but still, you know, to do that, etch and then do that on 2 weapons, we still wouldn't have had the gold yet. So we've got spores ready for the boss. We just need a main weapon to drop, which we've got another peddler ahead. And we'll be good to go. Now don't go into this corner here, you're going to have exploding head guys. Gee, that fire and the trap's in the bad spot. So bait them and then just throw a grenade and then run away. If you do higher content, this room often has like very tight glazed on it, so you're like, they don't die straight away. There's a 1 second delay after doing damage to them. And that's a really tight room with fire and traps everywhere. You got to run around and it's like freaky. So it's the challenges that makes the harder content really dangerous. We're going to just, now with this, if I get the scroll Flesh and Bones, it's very good for us because on this hero, it's our health regen that we get from Ascensions. On other ones like the bunny, or I just did a run on the monkey, that I did an R8 on the monkey, you want the opposite. It's called paranormality, and then what that does is changes your health to 1 and your shield to double, because their Ascensions do shield regen. So on this one, I'm going to not split the damage. We've got lots of health. We'll just split it for now, but it's a good thing to get that scroll when it comes up, because it gives us a huge buffer shield, and once we get some Ascensions, assuming, and even some regen on health scrolls. Now this is the harder room. This will have the elite in it, and the guy with the spinning head on an 8, if you don't have a really good fast weapon, can be pretty difficult. You can die in this room really easily. So don't feel like you need to do this room if you're trying to crack your first 8. And this isn't the best weapon for that guy. If it is, if it's the beetle, it'll be alright, but I could even jump out now, which I might do just to make the run faster. Why not just oh man, see what I mean? Everything's just a bullet sponge. If it's the guy spinning, I'm just going to run out. Yeah, it is. Usually is. He's tough. If he even gets anywhere near you and we haven't got a lot of movement, you're dead. So let's get out of there, because once we get spores we would have shot him, but we can't get that yet. The thing about this is our grenades are actually pretty powerful, so I'm just getting my shield back, letting them come around to me, killing them next to that. Trying to use this center column. See, a bit of glass cannon, as I said, one hit by a few things, you're down in the first act, even on one, and that's overconsumption. Lone wolf, I should say, making everything have so much health, and so much double damage, double health, or something like that. Okay, we've got a Phantom Peddler, another chance it would have been. That's what I was looking for if this was in the other room. Here we got our Wild Hunt. Isn't that a shame? It's level 2 and we can't really swap over to it now. Well, we either have to make a choice. So we've already burned our 3 levels, and you're only going to get one more Craftsman usually. There is a bit of RNG. I have got 3, but that's rare before the first boss. We're going to keep that for the whole run if we choose it now, but we have to do the first boss without. So I might make that decision now and just do it, because it just means that first Craftsman after the second boss, we can get it. That was a shame. We just did the old hunt, everything, but it is what it is. RNG. And we're going to do the scalpel, because that's level 2, which means not a bad weapon. Okay, you can sell those for a little bit of gold, but we don't need gold, just enough to buy us the odd scroll and the odd weapon. Okay, so after killing an enemy, we're going to go that again for level 2 of that. That's not bad too, not as a primary, we'll choose that over. But when remaining ammo in the magazine 30% or less, we get weapon damage, you know. Just anything that scales weapon damage, just not grenade builds like atomic, what I call atomic bomb build that he's got linked in that link that I have put in the pinned comment. This longbowmen in this room are the most dangerous at the end there, and there's usually a guy with a shield, which you can see to the right. They move slow, so the grenadiers are the most dangerous, and these guys. Not a bad weapon, this one. Our bombs will go through his shield, but our gun won't. And if there's more room, you can strafe around those guys. I've only got 2 bombs, so we need to get a few more. Should have bought them from the vendor. It's going to be a bit brutal. You can get a challenge here on the higher levels. They can be like delayed death, where they get a grey bar and you kill them, and you've got to wait like X amount of seconds until you get to run around and try to stay alive, and there's no room to do that. Bait him so he turns around and tries to put that projectile out. Scalpel's not bad. It is actually a lower firing weapon, like 500 or 600 or something, where the injectors and the angelic aura. I'm not going to do that just for the sake of speed of run. Got a bit of money, that's useless. That's good if we had the elemental. That's not helping our type of spec. We'll just do that for now.
We're not using an elemental gun, and we can toss it later. We now have 20 scrolls anyway, so we're going to be a bit selective. This room, the long bowman and the danger here, and the crossbowman, the range. So kill a few of these guys. And then move up for the crossbowmen and the dangerous ones. The shields move slow, and so they're not too bad. Just get all of the grenadiers down. There'll be more crossbowmen spawn in a second. You can get those guys from up top here, just by shooting over if they get closer to the shield, but these guys first. They spawn in here, so watch out, don't just hang in this little room. Just want to get around, oops, fire. Get these crossbowmen out of the way. There's an Argus that dropped. Everything just dropped that a little bit too late. That's the Argus we could have gone for. Which we will pick up instead of the Wild Hunt, because it's just got one more projectile count. Because we haven't upgraded it yet. Where is that range guy back there? There he is. Just waiting until they shoot and then coming back for him. You can hear them like do their 3 shots and then you can sort of come out. These early rooms are like so tight, easy to die. And once you get spores, even in this room if we had it, the monkey's got an advantage. They get free weapon levels just with using the Q. And so you can get a level 5 weapon with 1 Q. You just make sure you Q in the room. Oh, come on. Just so tight. He's enhanced. He's taking a bit more than a grenade or 2. They can get it like really early on the first Craftsman. They're both weapons enhanced. You just like do a Q and they're both up to 5, even though they were level 1. And you're off. So that's got a projectile count. When we pick it up, that'll go up to 16.25, and we haven't upgraded that, so it's slightly better than the Wild Hunt. Projectile count base damage is pretty good. There we go. Nothing else in here. Sometimes there's a vault up here, sometimes there's a chat chest in here. Just always have a look around. What did I miss up there? Looks like it's a scroll. No, it's the thing I threw before. That lucky shot chance did nothing for us, even though it was an enhanced weapon off the Phantom Peddler. It's just the projectile count. Okay, dual wording we get, you know, weapon damage, which is good, but it uses more, which isn't too bad if we're doing bossing. But I'm going to go for that for protection. Anything for our spores will just destroy everything. Just can't remember what that was that dropped up there. Oh, that's right. It's boss time, so we can't get spores unfortunately because we've only got 1 Craftsman and we can only do 1 weapon. But let's see if we can get a good main weapon for the good. So we got it's got my 3 favourite weapons. These are the 3 best weapons for the run. It would have been nice to get that Argus and Wild Hunt before the first. I should have probably kept the other one, but I just don't want to have to search in the second act for it. So we're hoping that there's a Craftsman after this boss. This boss will melt in seconds, even on an 8. If you have spores, it's going to be a bit longer in this one. So let me see, I'm looking for rate of fire on these. So it's got, the last one's good on that, but it hasn't got rate of fire. It doesn't do crits, so the blue's not helping. That's a great defensive weapon, and it's got lucky shot chance of 20. So I'm going to go with that, and it's great defensive until we get spores in the second act, and even on this boss. It's got a shorter range than the radioactive glove, and the radioactive glove does slow. I didn't look what boss it is, but we'll be sweet with that to kill the boss. It'll just be a bit slower to kill it. So we can now etch our Argus up to 5. It's going to be with us for the entire run. Actually, we're going to do that up to 5 because we need a bit of pew pew, and we can do that on the first Craftsman. We'll get spores. So let's that up to 5.
and that's just going to get a bit more damage. And then we can etch it with spores, re-roll it with spores ready, and then we just got to get a Craftsman after the first boss, which is sometimes in the first room. The last one I just did was, but it can be the third at the latest. Right click his head. It's going to be a bit of a slow kill because we haven't got spores, but we do have overconsumption. See the crit shots because we click the crit spot. Just going to go to Jokul, but just keep on the left. Now they're going to be guys with exploding heads coming up the sides, and I'll just use grenades on them because I don't want to let him regen his shield. Just use the Argus there as well, just Q. Beam and Argus, there we go. He just destroyed him, even without spores. So we didn't get anything there, nothing good. Nope, nothing weapon-wise good. That scroll could be. Got lucky shot while dual wielding, and this is grenade build. Reload and weapon damage 4 seconds after reloading. It's not bad. I'm not too worried about lucky shot chance at this one, so I might just do that one for now till we get some scrolls that stop us reloading as often. Backup shield's very nice. Now what you'd hope for in this next one, if you're doing 1 to 8, doesn't matter regardless, is fake death is great. I got it on the last run, we didn't get it, but just choose something that doesn't hurt you or gives you defense. So of those three, you can see the obvious choices: +5 health per second, minus damage taken for every 2% LP we have. So that would really help to get that scroll that churns, flesh to bones, whatever. But that's the obvious one for survival. Our weapon damage, as soon as we get to a Craftsman, is going to be OP. Now, sometimes the Craftsman is just up to the left of these guys, but you can just shoot through terrain here. This is why. Throw a grenade, and they can't shoot you. Even though they're empowered, they've got blue names, one of them. Just use terrain. We haven't got spores. And there's going to be arsonists just up ahead, and there's a Craftsman. So what I do is I jump to the Craftsman, it'll pause the game in single player, and now we've got our etching. So we got to, it doesn't matter about, so we're going to get up to 5. If we pressed that before, we would have ruined the weapon. Now we've etched it, now it spores. Now everything in this room, and the really danger of this room is the arsonists, and now everything will be one shot. The arsonists there, just shoot through the column, everything just gets one shot. And if it was an 8, you can have a look at the video on the bunny or the monkey I just did, I'll put up. It's just like this on an 8. Just don't have time. I'm playing a new game in 2 days. Returnal coming out. It's a roguelike game. It was PlayStation, but it's coming out on the PC on Steam, and I'm just trying to get some quick videos. I haven't got the time to do 8s. They're long, and they're not always successful. Especially on tunes that I don't play as much. It's a great game. I never played roguelike games before. I got it at Christmas. I got over 400 hours on the game at Christmas holidays. In 2 saves. The first save I did and unlocked things in co-op with friends and my son, who's in mid-20s. 2 of my sons are in their 20s. And then I set myself a whole new save where I want to do the whole thing from beginning to end, and then every kill on every hero in an R8. And then on the heroes that I play the best and I think have the best defensives, which I think is the bunny for R8s. I won't explain why, but you can have a look at, they've got really good, they press their E constantly, which is their swords out, and they get their ascensions, which is sword guard, and they become invincible, and then you get some scrolls on top of that. So their survivability is built into their skills much more than this one. I mean, the health is good, but actually interferes with how spores works. Okay, look around this. There's usually a, I was going to say, right here or there, a chat chest aura, and you want every advantage when you're doing 8s. I don't care about money, so I'm not going to do that. I'll just get my goblet and go into the vault. Now, there's probably an elite in this first one. Don't care about that anymore. So after killing an enemy, which we're doing constantly, it's minus 40 damage taken, and our health is just regenning. So that's Adrenaline Rush is like our top pick. And I don't have to do dual wield to get the benefit of it. So it works really well with spores. So, like, it just is like a lifesteal. We're going to get an elite here. If it's a shield guy, it will still burn through with spores. Like, that's an elite. And if it was an 8, it's just the same. Let's have a look at the video on the monkey and the... If I get time, I'll do 8s later. I'll come back to the game when the spring update comes, which I'm in Australia, so it's not my spring. But I think it's March to June when I looked it up. Triple comeback's a good one early on. That's actually a good defensive, even without a flame weapon. 4 ahead, just think ahead for the lobsters and the fire damage they do. I would do that. It's a good, you make a mistake. It does reduce everything. Look how low our health, our shield is there, and our health halved or something. But it's a free one anyway. If you die, you don't really die. It can help you on a boss. But we're going to blitz this run because we've got spores. Whether it was 1 or 8, it's really the last act. I'd say that the third boss at the end of Act 3 is actually both of those bosses much harder than the fourth if you've got spores and a good setup. Simply because we've got an elite invasion, we've got elite hermit somewhere, he's going to melt. He is pretty dangerous. He throws bombs. They don't explode unless you run over them, but if you forget they're there. So sometimes there's weapons in the middle, you have to run over them and then don't stop and they'll explode. So I've gone in to get a weapon and forgot and then died in the early days. The good thing about elite invasions is you get a goblet choice as a bonus, and higher levels it often happens. Rarely does it happen on 1, it's funny. That's good for, it recovers ammo per second while dual wielding, but again, we're not going to be doing a lot of that. I'm going to use that for just when I throw a grenade. They're not hurting as much. Mad Bomber. Defense again, not worrying about skill damage per se. That weapon has a low multiplier compared to the others. Replace all normal. What have I got again? I've got lucky shot. Reload I'm not worried about. That's nice because I'm not reloading at all. I want to try to get rate of fire, so I'm going to do that. Turn to lightning, got crit X, that'll help for the boss coming up, but it doesn't help us for trashing. But that's alright, we're OP regardless of the inscription at this point. I just sort of look at the dots on my mini-map and know where they're coming from, and then use corners on the hard levels. They can't shoot me. This weapon doesn't have a long range, so you sort of get through here and shoot stuff. Just looking around, I haven't missed something. There's often a vault up here or a chat chest. Vault's here usually, and a chat chest in the corner, which it's not. It is worth doing the rooms though. On R8 you want every scroll, every leg up you can, especially on Jokul. So look at Curse Penala. What's the enhanced version do differently? It gets us 30% lucky shot instead of 15. So we're getting the benefit, that's good, 30% lucky shot, and we get primary, it's mainly L dash, which is helpful. That's a good spore placer. If you don't, it's a high fire rate, but it doesn't auto target, so the injectors make it easy. I don't mind getting something like that later on in the run, but this just makes these runs easy. There's a Craftsman there that often is hidden, and often a vault in this room. So you can come in and bounce it up, just getting it early, like it's hitting for 180 now. It's just making those spores hit a lot harder. This room will often have, on high levels, challenges like you've got to be within 12 metres or they take no damage. And it's really dangerous on these to get within 12 metres. So you need to be able to have spores to kill them easily. You know, on harder ones they might last a bit longer, so you sort of skirt around this and they charge where you know, they charge into here. So use those barriers. Same for the arsonists, use barriers. So we're going to go in that vault. You've only got an atomic bomb build here, but we're going to do the mad bomber for defense again. We throw out, if it was on, I'd be throwing my grenades more to paint them up, get an explosion on them, and they don't do as much damage to me. Not so much on an R1. This room can be hard because we're going to get an invasion, and it's often the guy that he's an arsonist, but he does corrosion damage, which slows you. You can get under here on the harder levels and kill there he is, get away from him. And you have to get on the other side of the rock, so he can't get you, but really dangerous if you don't have a lot of damage to kill him quickly. You got to kite him around the whole room and hope you have a good range weapon, which this isn't. Don't care about money. What do we got? So this is a good one. We said 40% max HP during dual wielding, and that's great for bossing. I'll do that one. I'm thinking of bossing because the boss coming up can hit pretty hard if it's the... and you can just press your E. Oh, I've got ostrich boots. So I want usually that or abnormal speed. I don't care about the dash cooldown, especially if you get the one like that gives you 3 dashes, or the one that reduces dash by 50%. Because movement is life. We get 50% from our overconsumption, and now we're moving at 100% speed. And you can just dart around, and they can't lock onto you, you know, to shoot you. You just circle strafe stuff. Like here, you just like keep moving, and they don't know what to do, except for the fire does. You just shoot the snipers through here. So looking around the room for a craftsman, he's up there. Okay. Just check every corner, it's worth that extra time. The other thing is, you're not hunting for money, you're not, you know, that hidden treasures, you've got to shoot all the pots around the room and that, because you're hunting to get every upgrade on this, and often you can't do 3, especially all in the game where we're inscribing everything. You haven't got the money. So choosing Craftsman's Inheritor. There's snipers up here and retainers, what do they call, bandits that charge you. So come up here for the snipers and kill them so they can't get your line of shot. I just got to pause for a second. Sorry about that. Real life happens. Sometimes there's a vault up there. Sometimes that's the exit, and there is a peddler here or a vault there, I was going to say. So always check these corners. This next room's brutal without spores, by the way. Not this one, the one we're about to go into. This will have an elite. And this is brutal without spores as well. You've got snipers, retainers appear up there, which you can nuke through the bottom there, but you try doing these elites without spores to melt them that quickly. And it's so easy to die, on the harder levels especially. Don't need money, I'm just so used to melting before I started choosing a different starting option. Don't need that, that's bad by the way, because if you use the corrosive glove you get slowed by 50%. Can't see the upside of that one. Not going to take any of those. Have a look on the peddler for a scroll. Or if you didn't have a good main weapon, abnormal speed. So we've got 30% straight up for that, which wouldn't work if we chose flesh and bones and didn't have a shield, of course. You've got bandits charging you here, so you sort of want to use them so they charge into that and not get sniped. But look at the speed, we're just zipping around and it just gives you so much advantage. Just checking up here, sometimes there is chat chest there and so forth, or a vault. We just got a vault, so there wouldn't be. This room's pretty tough. And on a high one, probably the worst here is they turn into bandits. Everything you kill can turn into a bandit. He's immortal. Just waiting until he dies. You can rush under here and the snipers appear. Kill the charge guys. Snipers above my head here, and you can just nuke them through the floor. Just get the bandits through the wall. It's such a good defensive weapon here in the harder runs. These guys here just come underneath and they can't get the angle to kill you. Sniper up top there, you can just come underneath. He died before I got there, but you know what I mean. Just looking for the dots on my map now to know where they are, and they're dead. The tornado's really nuked too. Pretty dangerous room, especially if the challenge is everything turns into bandits. So I always step in and look to the right of the screen to see if the challenge is there and read it, because I've died too many times. That's not bad. So after killing an enemy and destroying an item, weapon damage and explosion damage plus 50 for 6 seconds. So anything that scales our weapon damage, I'm not worried too much about the Mad Bomber at this point, because weapon damage scales well, and what was that? Skills don't as the run goes on. Okay, it's boss time. The crit spot for this boss is just on his mouth, so you right click with this weapon. It would be a last chance to get an Argus or a shotgun that there, or scroll. Radioactive glove, let me see what's on that. This is good for bossing, but it's not great for trashing because we're not critting. I think I might go the reactive glove for the next part of the run. So it puts slow on everything with 8 meters. This has more range. The burning's doing nothing and the shock's doing nothing. Oh, they're both pretty lackluster. I'll just stick with this then. We'll get something better before the last boss. Let's bump that up. We're already up to 255. And right click the head. This guy will melt pretty quickly, simply before because we got spores. So right click, you'll see yellow numbers, just strafe him. And when he goes underground, you can kill him. Look, so much, oh, he didn't even get a chance to, but in the higher difficulties, he goes under and the beam just kills him, even with the ads around, just let them follow you. And you nuke him under the ground. It's wonderful. Okay, we're going to go for, we're not doing the dual wield because it interferes with the spores. You can't right click with the rainbow, but it'd be alright if we had the radioactive glove because you don't have any right click. So we'll do that for bossing. Not this boss, but the next one is probably the hardest in the game. That one again is not great. It would be good if I got on the last boss with this because we're not critting, which means it's reducing our lucky shot chance. Would have been on the boss good, and then you could drop it after if you just got it, but you'd want to get that on the last peddler before the last boss, if you're using this weapon. If you're using an angelic aura, of course you're critting all the time, it'd be wonderful. Okay, this one you want, like again, fake death if possible. Copycat we're going to choose because it gives us crazy movement speed. Whatever their enhancement is, and on the high run everything's enhanced, we get their benefit. And you'll see down here, our overconsumption, we're still getting 83% of the initial 300 weapon damage and movement speed and all the rest of it. But you will see all these things pop up here, and you can mouse over, which we can't do in the middle of battle. But we're getting damage increases, health increases, shield increases, because we get their enhancement. So it's actually a really nice one. Obviously, see the movement we got? We just killed something with it, you know, the agile in their name. Can't see their names because they're dying so quick. Oh, we got another rainbow. I'll have a look at that because this one wasn't brilliant. Though I do like to come back for it once I see a Craftsman. So I've got spores, if it hasn't got spores on it. It's really good. It does a second beam, 50%. And it's got the 50% rate of, yeah, well, that's what we're going to do. So let me just see here. There's usually a Craftsman just up here. Sometimes he's in the corner. If not, I'll have to kill without it, and I'll show you how bad this weapon is without spores. I wouldn't do it on an 8. No, we can come back still from here. Let me just see if there's a Craftsman in this room. Just don't want to get, you can't do it too far ahead, then you can't get back for it. On a 1 I don't care, because there's a peddler there. Usually there's the Craftsman over there. Okay, we'll clear the room. Because we've got spores on this, you can get underneath them. Movement. You just keep moving, they just don't know what to do. Like, they're trying to like, do I shoot there, do I shoot there, you know? Such a good thing. Get under here, the octopus is slow, and you don't have any slow. The snow boots you're after, or the corrosive shard, that will give you any slow. And slow is death, so. It's really good for lanterns, by the way. This weapon will shoot whatever comes closest to you automatically. Portal's open. Got that. And what we're going to do is drop this weapon, go back for the other. It's worth backtracking. I'm doing what I would on an 8. I'd be happy to go straight through with that weapon because we're doing a 1, but let me just see what's on the peddler first, just in case there's something amazing. Unlikely, but no. Bullet, what's the enhanced version do different? Because it's lucky shot and uses reserve ammo instead of a random. Okay, we'll do that, 25% lucky shot. So much movement speed, it's not even slow going back. Oh, I did miss that penetration bullet. That's pretty nice. Goes not for this run because we're pew-pewing, but it goes through, you know, things with shields like those horse heads. it goes straight through their health, and it does penetration through shields. And the movement speed's good to go back and pick up a weapon. So I'd be doing that on an R8. I would have kept the other one, you know, on an R1. You can just blitz through on anything with spores, to be honest, regardless of what's on the weapon. But trying to give you a hint of what I'd do on an R8 or an R8 Jokul. Don't forget to go to the Craftsman when you come in here. You know, I've gone through and forgotten about something, or I've looked at other things and not re-rolled it, and you think, why is everything taking so long to die? And we've got to bump that up, of course. And we forgot that. 17. Let's go in here and destroy what's ever in these side rooms. They are good for survivability scrolls, and they can make the day. Now this guy, let me just show you. You right-click with that, but look, see how he's got footprints behind him? The real one has footprints. We're going to melt him so fast. When he goes into clones, you can't tell which the real one is, but we killed it because we killed everything. But you'd look for the footprints, and that's the real one. Don't need that. Don't care about. That's like a sniper build with 2 shots as the magazine. So nothing for us there. But you know, you can get a really good legendary defensive scroll, like I said, feline cat or something, or shield, heavy shield and that. And on the harder content, those things are essentials. This got 2 beams, and because we've got so much power, it's only doing 50%, but it's actually killing as fast as the main beam. Just looking around here to see things like that. I'm just going to run through because I'm powerful enough. But on R8s, I'd be doing everything. Sharks here are the danger, and this is a good weapon for sharks. You can shoot through here and they're on the other side trying to chain you. You can do some good speed runs. I think 17 minutes is the fastest I've done without side rooms. With you get good movement speed like this and a weapon like this, it just blitzes the run. I'm more about higher difficulty levels and just accomplishing it on each hero. That would be another great weapon, but not going to worry about it here. If I was on higher difficulty, I would pick that up if it was good. Simply because the next boss, this rainbow, doesn't work if it's the cannon guy, catfish. What's good on it, just out of interest? So you got 50% after killing an enemy. That'd be 100% uptime, but it's got no rate of fire. The crit X would be good. It does lift a lot, that weapon. You do like to get, often you'll get a green, blue, 80% stability, 80% accuracy, and it really is important for trashing with that. Bump that up. Get a goblet. And that's defensive. I don't want to come back, so we'll do that for on a boss if we get hit hard. You just go into dual wield and get your health back up. Just looking for scrolls, it's a bad one. It slows your shield recharge. That's got rate of fire and critting, which would be a great bossing weapon. But we'll pick up something on the peddler before the boss that we'll be able to kill him with spores. We've got lots of money. Not an issue, but if you didn't choose that starting option and you did a different build, you have to actually keep a couple of thousand to buy the weapon, and then you might be unlucky on rolling spores. You might get 10 times or 12 times, that's 3,600 gold. And you can't do the boss, the boss without spores. The longer it lasts, the longer you're going to have a chance to die. Lobster's a priority here, by the way. I mean, they're dying really quickly, but on an 8. You want to try to not go in too early and die, but you want to get in so you don't get bombarded and cornered, because the fire on the ground and the bombarding like that, just rush in, circle them, and just smash them. Bump that up. remember where this guy is, because we might swap weapons here for the boss. I guess, nope, launcher. I love the speed of abnormal boots and overconsumption, which is 50 or close to it. 30% rate of fire and accuracy while dual wielding. Again, we might do that, but we're all right for the moment. Just that we have to go into dual wielding, and the rainbow can't right click if it's the serpent. Weapon damage explosion. Oh, we might do that. We'll do that because if it is the serpent, which it is, so we can keep this weapon, you don't have to right click the scales, it will be auto targeted. If it wasn't the serpent, I would come here. I'm going to do that one. That'll fix the ostrich boots, which, you know, minus 300%. It's 150%, which is, you know, not huge. And we've got movement speed, so we can get out as quick as we're dashing. I'm looking for a fast firing weapon, so I'd actually buy that. That's decent, not huge, but it's a decent weapon that would do spores in a pinch. And then I would hope for a better option on the second roll, because we've got money, we can just toss it on the ground, and I would be using the lightning shield there. And it's got some nice stuff on it. It's got rate of fire on killing an enemy, which would be alright after this boss. Sadly, you can't drop this weapon and come back to it, like we couldn't on the second boss. So whatever you drop here is dropped for good. Let's go to dual wield here to get the 50% weapon damage, and my weapon glitch then. Jump. What's going on with the weapon? The left click's not working, it's glitched. There it is. Just get out of there. The health regen's crazy. I got my shield knocked off then, but I went into dual wielding. Just get in between here, he's going to die. If you get in between the little reds, you just spam left or right. Okay, what have we got? Goblet. That's weapon damage of 75% for 6 seconds, which will be up all the time. We don't care about... That would be normally a top pick for a dual wield build, and on the build list that I've linked it would say to pick it, but we're really doing a spore run. If you were trying to unlock levels, you can go out there and not do the last act. You know, if you just don't want to risk it and you're trying to unlock 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to get to the harder one. That's a nice one, really nice. You get hit, we get crits even with a weapon that we're not critting with on trash. So yeah, I always do full runs. I just don't feel like it was right unless I did everything right through, even if I died in the last act. If you're doing R8 Jokul, you can actually talk to him and swap one of those 3. I forgot we had that. Too many runs today. But we get our health regen there. It's nice. Helped when we got hit then. And now we're just going to destroy here. Got 2 beams just pip-pewing. I'm not going to do the side rooms. I would, because I haven't got a lot of defense, and you can get... You just, on the higher ones, you want to do every volt. The stalkers here are really dangerous, so you come underneath and shoot them. If you had the radioactive glove, its advantage is it's got a lot of range, and it slows with the corrosion, but on an easier level like this. The most dangerous coming up are the cavalry that slow you, and you have to be close with the beam, so you've got to have something in between you and them, and they can really drop you on an R8. And if you're doing Jokul, this last act every room has a challenge. You'll get often invasions on every room, you know, elite come in, and the last room is innumerable elites, and there's one on horseback that, not horseback, but some, you know, rides something, like rides a penguin, and does flames everywhere, and he is brutal because you can't slow him. Just going to bump that up. We're up to 430. We'll be about 500 plus by the time we get to the boss. And we got our shotty a little bit late, so it would have been even higher if we got it in the first act. Mountain guards can be pretty brutal. You just want to, like, when they charge you, the same as the bandits in Act 2, let them charge in, use terrain, let them be on the other side, you know. I usually always used to get ostrich boots, and I haven't got it for a while. I really missed it. I love when I get it. You just run around, they try to shoot where you were. What do you call it? Right click the saucer if you want to try to get it down so it doesn't shoot what's closest.
But don't die for it on harder runs. If you get a shield, I'd be right back here. And they might have a shield on them by that, but I can burn through the shield with spores. You run in to get that, and then you get dropped by everything else, you know. Not worth it. It doesn't matter what you choose there, but again, got 100% weapon damage for 20 seconds. Only helps on trashing, not bosses. Let's just finish this run quickly. Just showing you the spores is OP. If this was an 8, it wouldn't be dying as. They're the cavalry I talked about. You don't want to rush in because you go around the corner. There's an elite invasion, a good example of. And that's the guy that's really dangerous, the most dangerous elite I think in the game. Well, normally. On an 8 it would be. He didn't even get a chance to leave a fire trail on a 1. Spores just blitzes. And everything's enhanced in this last act on Jokul. And usually on 8 it is too. But the challenges are brutal on Jokul. Plus their health is like tripled and their shields are tripled and all this other stuff. He's the one that's really dangerous. There's a vault there. Got that close on an 8, you'd be dead. So you got to like let them be on the other side, which is a bit hard with that. So the glove's a bit better on an 8, I'd say, than this. But because the glove, you can be right back and you can slow them, and it's got a lot more range, you know. But this is good for clearing on a lower Reincarnation Run. Just got slowed. I didn't get slowed boots. No, I didn't. Slow, that's why I'm saying try to get snow boots and corrosive shard, which we didn't get. So the slow I just got on me by the frost could mean a death on a higher difficulty. And we'll do that, pump it up. Just rush into the boss now. Golden comeback, we'll do that. We'll go into a dual wield in case we get hit. But the last boss is actually easier than I think the third boss. For sure it is. I've done him on Jokul many times and 8s. And as long as you've got spores and, you know, good. I don't know why that was bugging then. I couldn't. There we go. You got to be like sweet spot. How many scrolls have I got? Yeah, I'll do that and just see what I get. You never take that if you're up near 20 because you can get 2 scrolls that like are useless. Mid-air, fast loader's useless, so you have to swap weapons. Mid-air, you've got to jump. It's not useless. It's good for jumping on this one, but I don't really care. We're going to burn it without jumping. Jump around if you want. Right, we're going to burn this guy quickly, but even on an 8 we would with this sort of build. Let me just look what our weapon's up to. Plus 500, like I said, if you get it early. Just painting him up for defense. Going into dual wield, burn, for extra 50%. And splitting the canister and the boss at the same time. Because of the, look at that. Just burning into both weapons there. And then just hold your left click down, really. Go into that. If it was an 8, you'd burn him just as quick. There's videos on that if you have a look in the channel. Well, you would have had some other scrolls that would help, but it'd be similar speeds. I've done that on R8 and R8. My first kill on R8 Jokul's there. It's not got commentary, it's just the boss kill, the first one in the channel. I did it just to show my kids. I'd done a solo hard mode, and it died about that quick. And on Jokul, it's got like clones and all this slow on the ground and leaves this purple. But if you got the deeps, none of that will affect you. Let's see what we got for the run. I spent a lot, still 680 ahead, and I rolled a bit at the start. So you're still ready for the next run and a few skills to do. 37 minutes on the timer without my pauses. Again, you got to have that. And I would say that if you're doing the harder stuff, if you're doing solo, you don't need those 3 and those 2, but you do want to get down to there. They're all very helpful, and you do want to get this side down to there. This one you want to get, that one covers both the injectors and it gives you a lucky shot chance, and that would be like the next priority. And this used to be priority because you needed gold to etch and everything, but really just the peddler being able to refresh to get your Argus or a good weapon now and then is helpful, but last priority. Have a good run, and I hope you have some success, and you can obviously change that, you know, and do your build as you want from the other page that's linked, but you'll find that spores performs really well. Like I did double shotgun build in the early days, you know, an illusion in the left and Argus in the right, and just pew pew. But I tried fast weapons in both hands and tried different Geminis, but spores just blitzes. Anyway, have a good run, and I hope that helps at least get your first 8 somehow with spores as it rocks.